I will be honest with you. As a young researcher working with small scale farms in Africa, the aim was at one thing: to maximize productivity. I was deeply concerned, and still am, but for different reasons, of the 1 ton agriculture in Africa, with no chance of lifting millions of people from undernutrition and much less to feed a future population exceeding 2 billion by 2050. But maximizing production of food, while important in the most food insecure regions of the world, will not take us to a future where all people in the world can have a chance of a good life on Earth. We also need a grand transformation to healthy and sustainable food within planetary boundaries. In fact, one of the key findings in our Eat Lancet report, the first scientific attempt of defining universal targets for health and sustainable food, the planetary health diet, is that there is no successful delivery of the Paris Climate Agreement of keeping global warming well below 2 degrees, and there is no successful delivery of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals unless people across the world meet the scientific targets set out by the planetary diet, the planetary health diet that we presented in the Eat Lancet Commission report. Well, we have a new risk landscape. 9 of the 15 known tipping elements in the Earth system are on the move, showing worrying signs of change, like the slowdown of the Gulf Stream, accelerated melt of Antarctica, and increased permafrost thawing. Food is behind all of these changes. As the world's single largest emitter of greenhouse gases, the world's largest consumer of fresh water, and the world's #1 cause behind land use change and biodiversity loss, and interference with the global cycles of nitrogen and phosphorus. We warned already 6 months before the pandemic outbreak by putting on the table of a Heads of State event at the United Nations headquarters in September 2019 the evidence that humanity must now consider declaring a state of planetary emergency. We face irreversible changes, undermining the ability for human development in the future with rising shocks and crises. A few months later, the pandemic struck. This was not a black swan. It was expected. No surprise. And COVID-19 is a manifestation of the Anthropocene, the new geological epoch we have entered, where we humans are the dominant force of change on Earth. The SARS-CoV-2 virus is a zoonosis, a virus spillover from wild animals to humans, occurring as a result of destruction of natural wildlife habitats, simplification of landscapes through agriculture, wildlife trading and wet markets where wildlife, domestic animals, and humans interact, all accelerated and amplified in our hyper-connected, globalized world through air travel and global trade. A perfect cocktail for epidemics that can accelerate to pandemics. At the heart is food. But food is also influenced by the human impacts of COVID-19 itself. Obesity, diabetes, malnutrition, all rapidly rising health challenges across the world due to poor food consumption habits, making us weaker and deadly targets of the coronavirus. We need to urgently redefine the food system and start the transformation towards a planetary health diet future for all. Here are a few pieces of the puzzle that can inspire the Eat at Home dialogues. #1, a food system that follows the carbon law of cutting global emissions by half every decade, which is the scientific path to have a chance of staying well below 2 degrees Celsius of global warming. The food system is integral to this. It's an innovation, transformation, and equity pathway. But that's not enough. We need to have biosphere targets, setting science-based targets for all planetary boundaries that define a safe space for humanity on Earth. A key vision is an apex target for not only climate but also biodiversity. A fundamental step on this is the scientific support that now is the time to feed humanity at no more expansion of agricultural land, meaning a zero loss of natural ecosystems from 2020 and onwards. The third is a nitrogen and phosphorus revolution, closing the cycles of nutrients in sustainable, efficient agriculture, as with freshwater systems. We can do this by minimizing impacts and staying within safe operating spaces. The fourth is a resilience transformation, investing in agricultural systems that build diversity and redundancy are best insurance mechanisms towards risks of future shocks from pandemics to climate impacts. And fifth and final, to invest in governance systems that manages and governs the global commons, recognizing we're all interconnected in the globalized world of the Anthropocene. A key economic measure here is to internalize all the externalities, so not only thinking of a price on carbon, but also thinking of price on nitrogen, on phosphorus, setting value on ecosystem services that can give us a good, straight incentive scheme for transformations towards sustainable, healthy food systems. Science is on the move here, and EAT has been and continues to be absolutely the leading front. We have established the Earth Commission, an interdisciplinary scientific commission to assess for the first time the safe and just operating space for humanity on Earth, where food is one key component, and the EAT initiative of the Food Systems Economics Commission to set economic policies and directions to accelerate and amplify the transformation towards sustainable, healthy food systems. So a lot moving on, but still increased momentum required. EAT and Home as a key part of this dialogue. Thank you.